It's game day here in Tallahassee. Florida State and NC State set to kick off at 3:30 alongside Lane Hurt. I'm Scott Kodak, and before we get to today's matchup, big story of the afternoon and really of the entire weekend, the return of legendary Hall of Fame coach Bobby Bowden. Lane, you were at the event at the Civic Center last night. We heard what a fantastic crowd it was. How great is it that the greatest coach in college football history is back in Tallahassee?
Scott, it was an absolutely fantastic event. It was a packed house at the Donald L. Tucker Center, and the fans were hanging on every word that Coach Bowden had to say. There were a lot of memories shared, a lot of laughs. He gave a pep talk to some of his former players who I saw they were really having a hard time taking a knee, some of those older guys, so that was really tough for them. But it was really a memorable event, and if you want to see the highlights of that, you can look at Seminoles.com because there were so many great moments, especially at the end when he was the conductor of the band for the war chant, or the fight song, I mean. It was just a really, really cool event. It's great to have him back, and it's going to be awesome inside the stadium today.
It sure is. A great pregame ceremony starts around 3 o'clock, Seminole fans, so make sure you get in your seats early. Maybe the coolest thing that's going to happen today, Coach Bowden is going to plant the spear at midfield. That's an honor that's reserved for very few people. Coach Bowden did it at the Gator Bowl a few years ago, but to see him do that, to be in this stadium, could you ever think of missing that?
You couldn't miss this, because last time Bobby Bowden was in Doak Campbell Stadium, everyone was saying goodbye to Mickey Andrews. No one had any idea that it was going to be Coach Bowden's last game here in Tallahassee, and this is kind of a redo of that. Now fans get that proper send-off for Coach Bowden, get to cheer him. I think it's going to be the loudest ovation of the day in here, the loudest probably been ever inside Doak Campbell Stadium.
And that's saying a lot when you have Jameis Winston, who might get the biggest applause of anybody now, including head coach Jimbo Fisher. Let's talk a little bit about the game itself. NC State does get their quarterback Brandon Mitchell back today after, I believe, doing something to his foot, ankle early on in the season. He is back today. Has some choice words for Florida State earlier on in the week. A very athletic quarterback, get outside the pocket, can really throw the ball downfield.
Yeah, absolutely. When you get your starting quarterback back, I think it gives you a little extra jump if you're NC State. They also had the bye week, and you saw what Boston College did against us when they had that bye week. You know they're going to have a couple of tricks up their sleeve. But this is one of those show-me games. You look around the college football landscape, and yeah, we're better than NC State, but Stanford was better than Utah. Utah won. Georgia's better than Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt won. Tennessee, not as good as South Carolina, but Tennessee won. And, you know, that's the kind of thing that happens in college football. And Florida State has to be focused fully on this game, or you could see one of those close games down to the wire.
That is the biggest key today, is can Florida State maintain their same level of focus? Thankfully, Florida State's got a big chip on their shoulder because of what happened in Raleigh last year, losing that heartbreaker. We were there. We saw it happen. There is not a single player on this year's team, especially Jameis Winston, who didn't even play in the game last year, that has not forgotten exactly what happened and doesn't want to have anything like that happen in 2013.
Absolutely. You don't want to use the revenge, because the players weren't using the word revenge. What they were saying is how heartbroken they were, how disappointing last year was, that bad taste that was left in their mouth. And I think they've worked on their preparation this week. It's all about preparation. Jimbo Fisher has said a few times that they play the way that they practice, and Fisher was very happy on Thursday how the team practiced. So hopefully they'll come out with that energy and remember that they do not want to have that bad taste in their mouth at the end of this one.
One of the big things for me today, Seminole running game. We know Jameis Winston can light up the scoreboard. We know he can light up more passing yards than anybody. Heck, he's in the Heisman conversation right now, which is great. But Florida State needs to run the ball today, and they need to be focused on this team, because you can't look ahead to next week, a big primetime matchup at 8 o'clock against Miami.
Absolutely. I think at some point, one of these teams is going to try to not blitz Jameis Winston and see what he can do when you only bring 4, which means that should open that running game. So I agree with you, Scott. If you can get Freeman and maybe Carlos Williams going, then that could really open up some things again. And then for me, the defense. Can they continue to force turnovers? Can they make Brandon Mitchell feel really uncomfortable back there in the pocket? If they can do those things, they should be just fine.
Kickoff scheduled for just after 3:30. Remember, Seminole fans, a great pregame ceremony honoring the legendary head coach Bobby Bowden. We can't wait for that moment to see that spear planted at midfield. Should be a lot of goosebumps in the stadium. So for Lane Hurt, I'm Scott Kodak saying go Noles, and we'll see you after the game.